Hey, welcome to the Social 333 podcast. My name is Chris Bentley. I'm your host. And today our guest is Fabian Cruz.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I know you do accounting. You've been doing accounting for a long time. Talk a little bit about and tell the audience about yourself.
Sure. Well, first off, I'm a father of two kids, a 6 and a 4-year-old, married. I lovingly refer to them as the Goofball Gang. And I'm actually the founder of Cedo Tax Resolution. And I'm also specialize in tax resolution. So I don't do accounting work. My only focus is helping people out when they have issues with the IRS or if they have issues with their state tax authorities.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So our audience is a lot of them are business owners, self-employed. Myself, obviously, I'm self-employed. Let's talk a little bit about that because I know for a fact that like write-offs can be kind of tricky.
Sure.
For a self-employed person. So I've seen a lot of stuff, but can you kind of walk us through kind of some of the stuff that you're seeing or kind of some of the laws that are right now? Because I know laws change every single administration, that kind of stuff. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, I mean, you're absolutely right. Laws are constantly changing. And the big thing is they don't change like at one time of the year. They're constantly changing. As far as what we're seeing right now, really what I'm seeing as far as in my lane of tax resolution, we're seeing an increase in audits, also an increase in collection notices going out. And we're actually seeing for this coming year, stronger enforcement on back taxes and any kind of tax issues.
Talk to me about audits. Talk to me about that because I made quite a bit of money last year.
Okay.
I'm not trying to brag.
Well, that's a good thing. It's a good problem.
And I don't have enough write-offs to kind of like offset that. So I'm trying not to get an audit, right? So like I know my sister's a master CPA, so she has a lot of stuff under her belt. One of the biggest things that like I know is like if you start a company and you just have heavy losses and like no real income coming in, is that like an audit like waiting for happen like after let's say 2 or 3 years?
Sure. So first off, I don't deal with tax mitigation. Like your sister, she's an ideal person to help you as far as writing off the losses. Really, as far as getting into an audit, my advice is for solopreneurs is to really have someone on your team who's just not in the lane as far as tax mitigation, but they also understand as far as what can be done within that lane. I actually deal with a lot of 1099 salespeople. They'll go out, they'll get LLCs, but they won't utilize them correct. And so what we do is we always tell them, find someone as far as who deals with taxes, who understands how to put you in the best position possible. That would be like running your LLC through an S corp, taking a reasonable salary and doing the rest through like a K1. That right there would help as far as minimizing your tax obligation. And also too, if you have an S corporation, the likelihood that you're going to get audited drops significantly than as opposed to just having an LLC. So that's one piece of advice I would give you. But also too is just really understand as far as who's doing your taxes. Don't this is nothing negative to them, but if your tax situation is more complex, like in yourself where you made a great living, multiple streams of income, going down to H&R Block at Walmart is not the way to go.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the H&R Block and the Walmart and that kind of stuff is great for taxes if you're like a W-2 employee, and you just like need to get it filed. You want to see like how much you're going to get back because you probably took a big chunk or not enough or whatever it is from your withholdings. And I've seen that too. And then that's when you get people that like buy crazy stuff like afterwards, after they get their check.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about people that do like online stuff, because I have a lot of people that are friends or people that I know or in the community as well that just like they start an online business, they have no idea what to write off, and then they just decide not to file taxes. And then after a while, it kind of like creeps up because they want to buy a house or something like that. Like, talk about that back taxes or like issues with that, or like a case that you kind of ran into with
Sure.
something like that.
Yeah. So one of the big things is with taxes, a lot of people that end up coming to me, they feel like out of sight, out of mind. So if they're not dealing with it and they're not getting calls, it's not an issue until they get that call. And then at that point, they've had penalties and interest accumulate on their tax debt. And at that point, something that could have been dealt with very simply, as far as, getting unfiled returns filed, now has turned into like this snowball of an issue. So what I always share with everyone is, even if you can't pay those taxes, get your tax returns filed, because the failure to file, that fee is significantly higher than the fee of as far as failure to pay.
You can always set up like a payment plan, correct?
Absolutely. The IRS will work with you. But my advice is, if you have significant tax debt, get someone involved like our firm, so you can make sure as far as that payment plan is correctly set up. And then also too, we want to tell the IRS what someone can pay. We don't want the IRS to tell our clients what they can pay. So it's a very big difference between those two.
I don't know really if you deal with this, but I'll kind of float this out to you. So
Okay.
I had a guy that has a couple exotic cars,
Okay.
and he shoots videos with them and promos and stuff like that. And he ended up, getting an audit because he took those cars off his taxes, because he's saying, hey, like, I'm using these cars that I purchased as part of my marketing for my taxes or whatever. So he ended up getting audited like multiple years. Have you seen anything like crazy like that, or like, do you have like a crazy story to share?
Yeah. So we had this influencer who was dealing with watches. That was his lane, and he went out and bought all these watches and tried to write them off. And the thing is, he was using them for personal use, and they weren't actually inventory for like a storefront.
Mm-hmm.
And so he got audited. So we had to step in, help him out, and you know help him get that resolved. So yeah. So if that's pushing the line way too far. You're at that point, you're over the line, especially if there's personal use involved.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting story.
Yeah.
I know the IRS has been in the news probably the last year or so. I know they were like, the past administration, they were trying to like arm them, and then they like did a huge hiring thing, and now like the new administration's in. Like, what are you really seeing? I know there's some like layoffs apparently. What are you really seeing with like IRS and IRS enforcement?
Okay. So as of right now, today, there have been roughly 2,000 probationary employees let go from the IRS. There's rumor of additional layoffs coming. But here's what I share with everyone, because I get phone calls weekly about if people should file their taxes or not. And this is what I share with everyone. The IRS is still in business. Congress has to vote in order, if they want it, if the IRS to do away with Congress, excuse me. So the IRS is not going anywhere. So with that, again, the IRS accounts for roughly 50% of the revenue for the federal government. So the IRS is not going anywhere.
Yeah, so it's like a big money arm of the government.
Exactly.
Basically. I know myself, a little personal, but like I filed bankruptcy back when it was 2008, 2009, when the financial collapse happened. I had no choice. I had multiple properties. I sold real estate. Probably people in the audience don't remember, but like people weren't lending money back then, which meant like nobody could get a loan, which meant nobody could buy a house.
2008, that was a rough time for multiple industries.
Yeah, and just like people just kind of forgot that people weren't lending money. So now I know for sure, because it's been multiple years, but I know for sure like bankruptcy's laws have changed. And now with that, like, can you actually file bankruptcy if you have back taxes? Like, can you try to like not necessarily like skirt the law, but skirt the law in kind of a sense?
Yeah. So right now, our biggest referral source are bankruptcy attorneys. The reason being is whenever a bankruptcy attorney moves moves a taxpayer into a Chapter 7, if they were to put all that tax debt into that Chapter 7 petition, what would happen is the tax attorney, or excuse me, the bankruptcy attorney would get that Chapter 7 discharged, meaning get it completed, but 1040 tax debt, unless certain parameters are met, it's not eligible for bankruptcy. So that's actually why a lot of bankruptcy attorneys work with my firm, because we step in and we help with that amount, with that portion of the tax debt that's not dischargeable in a bankruptcy. So let me give you an example. We had a sales manager of a car dealership come in. He was looking at doing a bankruptcy. He had $300,000 in back taxes. Well, after we pulled his transcripts and we started to do some research, we found, as far as the parameters, only 13,000 was eligible out of that 300,000 for bankruptcy. So that's why we actually work a lot hand in hand with bankruptcy attorneys.
Do you do anything with divorce attorneys?
We do. Yeah,
Really?
we do. So a lot of times what we're doing with divorce attorneys is we're doing innocent spouse relief. And that's typically whenever one spouse is completely unaware what the other spouse is doing in regards to their taxes. And we step in and we help them file that, and it actually relieves them of all obligation of the taxes.
So what would you say like your ideal client would be? Would it be like a entrepreneur? Would it be somebody that's going through a divorce? Would it be, somebody that has back taxes? Would it be somebody that's like involved with the audit? Would it be like all the above?
All the above. If you're sick and tired of laying awake at night and you're embarrassed about your back taxes, your unfiled taxes, don't be, because conservatively over 8 million collection notices went out last year. And it's actually an expected to increase this year. So if that happens, give us a call. I mean, because there is help out there.
So there's more audits, more collections, more than you've seen in the past.
Oh, absolutely. Because with tax cuts that are taking place, additional revenue needs to come somewhere. And that's absolutely, it's stronger enforcement.
So tell me, so I've never been audited, thank God. Knock on wood. But tell me, like, what happens when somebody gets like notified that they're gonna have an audit, or that they owe back taxes, or like, the stuff hits the fan. Like, kind of tell me, like, kind of walk me through what happens, because I've never done it before. I kind of heard of it. I'm sure people in the audience have heard it as well. Like, what really happens?
So, you're notified by the IRS. You're given so much time to address it on your own. And then if you ignore it, you're going to get certified mail. And then at that point, your options start to get limited. And so what we do is we like to do a 3-step process. The first step is we want to do an investigation, a discovery process. So what we do is we pull your tax transcripts directly from the IRS website. And then we take a look to see exactly what the IRS is looking at. From there, we go into a second process, and this is compliance. We want to get a taxpayer in a position that the IRS wants to work with them. This could be as simple as getting unfiled returns up to date. And then at that point, we go into the third and final process, which is permanent tax resolution. And then at that point, we get we propose something to the IRS, and then at that point, we want all of this completely taken care of.
Is there any like tax breaks or anything that somebody can like take off their taxes as like a, I don't know, like as a business expense that like you recommend in like 2025, like something that maybe, I don't want to give away like a nugget of information. I know you do a lot of your stuff, but like if the audience wanted to reach out to you and they had an issue, what would like one nugget for like a self-employed, a business owner, something like that, to take off their taxes to help mitigate a lot of that tax?
Yeah. Well, again, I don't deal with tax mitigation, but my advice would be, as far as write-offs, there's multiple write-offs. My advice would be find someone who's very competent in dealing with tax mitigation, and go into a CPA and then ask that CPA, what are you doing for continuing education? What kind of programs are you going to? Because at that point, you're going to see as far as, are they doing just the standard continuing education, or are they trying to push their knowledge as far as to see where all those different opportunities are? And it could be anything from writing off a home office to, even splitting up someone's business. So if you start creating revenue off of your podcasting, you should open up a completely separate business, versus your real estate.
Right.
So, it's, and again, I don't deal with tax mitigation, but these are just some things to think about, but definitely find someone who specializes in that.
What's your outlook for 2025? Like, where do you see taxes and like things kind of going? I know it's like kind of a crystal ball question, but like, where do you kind of see things going?
Sure. Well, just like a few moments ago, we see an increase in audits, an increase in collection notices. We're getting calls left and right with both of those, and we see greater enforcement across the board. And again, that's, if you start cutting, if you start proposing tax cuts, revenue has to come from somewhere.
Right.
So that's really what we're seeing. We're currently seeing it. It's not even a crystal ball. We're seeing it right now.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Where can they find you? Like, if somebody needs some help, they just got somebody knocked on their door, IRS is at their door, whatever it is, like, where can they find you?
Well, first off, if the IRS knocks on your door, do not answer it. Never talk to the IRS on your own. So we had a client who did that, and he actually doubled his tax obligation because he didn't realize what he was saying yes to. And so never answer the door. Just tell them your attorney or someone will be in touch with them. But as far as where to find me, you can give us a call at 1-877-Cedo Tax. That's CITO. Or you can even go to our website, which is cedotax.com.
Awesome. Fabian, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Mr. Fabian Cruz.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Good deal.